This was the week where executives in Hollywood realized no, they can't run shit without writers. They really tried. They really thought they could for a second, but no, they can't. In fact, after 146 days, the AMPTP and the WGA have come together for a tentative agreement. Details are TBD, but it's looking good. WGA held out for a long time. And well, Aaron, I know you remember, so I want to get your thoughts on this. But here was that letter that you and many writers, or no, this is not the letter, but what they did say was that it was a very good deal. The Guild was able to secure concessions on most of their demands from the studios, including increases in royalty payments for streaming content and guarantees that AI will not encroach on writers' credits and compensation. After 146 days on strike, the deal was reached after 5 consecutive days of negotiations. The use of AI was one of the main drivers for the writers to call for a strike, was the last sticking point. Over the weekend, the studios proposed a few paragraphs to be inserted into the new contract that addressed a guild concern about AI and old scripts that studios own. The two sides spent several hours negotiating the language on the final talks that night. Writers may resume work relatively quickly if union leadership approves a deal. They're also going to vote whether to end the strike. That would allow writers to return to work during the ratification vote, but would not affect the membership's right to make a final determination on the contract approval. So I guess during the vote, after everyone sees what it is, obviously this is a Democratic union. And everyone's going to have to look at the details, but it is a 3-year contract. And like I said, the WGA said it is very good. And this is a month after basically the AMPTP was like, no, that's our final offer. Nah, and we're going to leak all this to the press. And the WGA was like, fuck you guys. And back to the picket lines. But this is a massive victory. This is incredible. I mean, I did not expect this to come so soon. And I also felt like really, like, I don't know, down about the whole thing. Like, shit, they could do whatever they want. They've got all of this money. They're just going to keep on holding out because they're pieces of shit, and they're going to wait for Bill Maher and Drew Barrymore and others to scab, and it's going to be successful. But Aaron, what do you make of this?
I mean, I, like everybody else who wasn't directly involved in the negotiations, I haven't seen it yet, but I also know that the people that were doing the negotiating for the WGA kind of hard asses. And I trust them to not have made a deal that wasn't a good deal. I thought it was really interesting just the extent to which the executives underestimated how unpopular they were, and the sort of overall eat the rich sentiment that I think somebody pointed this out to me, that like when that submarine imploded, I feel like it unstuck something. Everyone realized like, oh, we all hate rich people. Like we all, it's okay to like openly talk about, and I'm not talking about like someone who has a house, I'm talking about like the mega rich, somebody who has too many houses, like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 too many houses. I think that they're completely isolated from how public opinion had turned on them. Bob Iger from his Billionaire Summit, talking about how they were going to kick writers out of their homes, like starve writers out of their homes. Like they hired, I think, 3 crisis communication firms.
That's right.
The AMPTP.
Really, we can see you all on LinkedIn, guys.
Yeah, come on, guys. A really funny aspect of that was they hired a crisis communication firm that had handled the U.S. women's national soccer team's move to get equal pay with the men. And after it was announced that the AMPTP had hired that firm, the women's national team tweeted that they stand with the WGA, which is kind of funny. I'm glad that this deal was made. I'm going to just say that during the 2007-2008 strike, that was before I was in the industry and involved in the union. And by the way, I have no inside information. I'm just talking as like, I'm not.
Tell us what you know.
Yeah, I'm not like an official representative of the WGA. I'm just a rank and file member. But I know in 2007, 2008, that strike was over internet rights, essentially. And what happened after that, after they hammered out a deal that writers liked, was that the studios innovated a way to get around that and screw writers over. So on one hand, I'm glad that we made this deal. But on the other hand, I think over the next few years, what we should take a look for is the new ways that studios will innovate to screw creative people over, because that's what they're constantly doing. I also think that like this exposed some real rifts in the industry. There are companies that are making content, Apple, Amazon, that make so much of their money from things besides making content that they kind of can just like bleed through their content hole for as long as they want. And the company would still survive. On the other hand, a company like Warner Brothers, CBS, Viacom, whatever, any of those companies don't have the same luxury. And I can't see the next round of this involving solidarity between the leaders of the industry. It doesn't quite, it like almost didn't make sense this time around. And just as an observer, I can't see it. I can't see them being the body that writers are negotiating with next time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, stop looking at the writers for the reasons that you can't, you know, you're saying, oh, that you're claiming poverty or whatnot. It's like, no, you're not a tech company like Amazon or Apple. You do entertainment, you tell stories. Don't work for the shareholders, work for the people who are actually consuming your content. You know what I mean? Stop making yourself these mega businesses. But that's what happens when everything becomes a massive conglomerate. And we've talked about that on the show with Paris Marx, who, basically broke that down. Like, they're trying to be tech companies, but they can't, like you're saying, that all they have really is still what writers are providing them. Jason, I think it's really interesting, for someone like you and I, that like you see a lot of actors are still on strike, which we'll want to talk about in a second. Actors and writers and, creators who are also like turning, and I think like massive corporations generally are turning to like platforms like Instagram or TikTok or places where we are, YouTube, and saying like, well, why can't we just do this? This is all free. You all do this shit for free. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, because this is not sustainable, because this is a terrible way. And like, not all writers should be reduced and flattened to this. You don't want to be down here in the trenches. Down here, everybody floats. Anyway, that's what I have to say about that. But what do you make of it?
Well, I think the next negotiation, what is it? I think 3 years. It's a 3-year contract. Mm-hmm. The next one's all going to be about Elon Musk's brain chip that you were talking about earlier. It's all going to be like, that's the new content. Like, what do we do? How do you know when they think about it or when we show it to their brain or whatever it is?
Release the stats from the dead chimps. Mm-hmm.
But I think it's great. I mean, what we're seeing in the articles, I think, is great. The big thing was AI, and the other big thing was you had shows that would have a second life on Netflix or these streaming platforms. Like Suits was watched like over 100,000 hours or something ridiculous over the summer. And if that was on cable or on in syndication, the writers would have a set amount of money that they would be getting for that. And then with Netflix, some of these places hide their numbers, and you don't even know how many times
nearly all of them do.
I think so, but I think in this agreement, those things are going to be worked out. I hope, at least that's what
I believe it. One of the iterations was we'll show the numbers, but only to a few people in the WGA. Sort of like
and only for a couple seconds, and then that's it, and that's it, and that's it.
And then you just absorb what you saw. And the WGA was like, no, how about we're not going to do that? But
AI, I think, is the biggest deal here, because AI can like learn how somebody writes, their style, what type of jokes they write, and they can basically create a movie, a Steve Martin movie, in the vein of Woody Allen. You don't have the baggage now, but it's a Woody Allen movie, and
that actually might be a good use.
And maybe that would be the
without
good use.
The baggage AI.
Mm-hmm. Another thing is like they worked on there's something called the Schedule of Minimums, which is this huge, like, ridiculous book. I wish it were on a scroll, because it's like it just feels like a
schedule of
minimums, right? So basically, if you adapt something, you get paid a lot less than if you're the main writer. And so one of the things that they accomplished in this deal, from what I've read and what I've heard, is that there needs to be a credited writer that isn't a computer on every project. So even if Netflix used AI to generate an idea for, like, let's say a Christmas movie, a big city career woman goes to a small town cookie baking contest. Yeah, right. Exactly. So they could use AI to generate that, or a romantic comedy, or a high school movie.
Not to throw Lifetime under the bus here.
Yeah, exactly. And then like they could even generate a script, hand it to a writer, and the writer would adapt it and only get paid as a person that adapted the script. Under this contract, that's not legal. Even if they generated an AI script, the writer still gets paid as though they wrote the whole thing.
Sure. They're not saving anything.
Exactly. There needs to be a written by, and it needs to be a person.
That's huge.
Yeah. And that's
yeah. And the same thing with, I hope the mini rooms go away. I mean, it's just such shit, the way that writers are being squeezed more and more. Same work with less time. But,
and that relies way more on being someone who knows somebody. Like, you're not going to be invited into a mini room if you just happen to be like a talented person. Even if you have like the same agent as somebody, and they're like, hey, do you want to hire this person you've never met before for your mini room? No, they're going to hire their friends because they know those people. They can work with them. Mini rooms are really hostile to people who are getting started as writers, or people who don't have traditional writing backgrounds, or people who are not Nepo babies, people who are just coming up from a non-standard Hollywood path are really screwed over by mini rooms. So
right, because there's no onboarding or learning. It's just like, there you have like 5 people, go, like, obviously who are you going to pick? But there are 11,500 members of the WGA, something like this, and 150,000 in SAG. So SAG-AFTRA is still on strike. So they obviously, it's a separate strike. They started in July. Separate demands. One of those demands is 2% of total revenue generated by streaming shows. The studios called that a non-starter. 2%. It's fucking nothing. Sounds like they can cough that up. This is, according to the New York Times, the deal with the writers could provide a blueprint for negotiations on some concerns shared by actors, like AI and using likeness. WGA has encouraged its members to join actors on their picket lines when they resume on Tuesday. So that, without a doubt. But Aaron, to your point, I like this tweet, I believe from a member, Danielle Weisberg, who says, I think the main thing to remember is that bullying CEOs works, and as a bonus, is fun. And they not only were CEOs bullied, but we talked about, Bill Maher and Drew Barrymore trying to do this, the unscripted realm, trying to break off as, we have nothing to do with writing. It's like, no. You all, especially Bill Maher, none of you do your own writing. And they were completely and summarily beaten and bullied into not being scabs. Beaten into solidarity. That's what it is, guys. That's what we have to do. Browbeaten into solidarity.
Fox News called that cancel culture. They said being mean to Drew Barrymore for crossing the picket line, that's cancel culture.
I feel like Drew Barrymore is going to be fine without Fox News, or without those people being her allies, or whatever. I was texting with a friend who's like also in the WGA and is like working on some project, and I was like, how do you feel about the end of the strike? And she goes, well, good, but now my failures are my own fault. I can't blame.
I know, it's now for me. Now I'm like, I was in solidarity before. Now I'm just back to being thirsty. Now I'm like, I'm happy in the union too. Yay. Was very close to actually trying to get Newsbroke to be part of the union, the WGA. And which is, in terms of, again, Jason, what we do, just like online stuff and even podcasts, right? And writing and all that. It's like, WGA was great. They were great. When we talked to them, they were receptive. We talked to them about it. We were like, there's like 3 of us, but we really like to join. So they're an amazing union. They clearly care. And we're just like some internet writers. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll talk about it. We just have to like talk also to your bosses and whatnot. Didn't actually pan out. But there's more to this fight for sure. But it is a huge step, and it's very exciting, and exciting also for what's to come with SAG. And I hope they get, God, those residual checks to look at those are very, very depressing. So,
I got a check for 1 cent from Succession. I only had 5 lines in it, whatever, but it was just funny to open it, be like, am I supposed to cash this 1 cent check right now?
Wow. Can I have that cent? Because I think that's amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Now I have to which episode, which season?
It's at the very beginning of an episode in season 1. And I'm like pestering Logan. I'm basically playing myself. I'm pestering Logan Roy, and then throwing a piss balloon at him in front of the.
Wait! Stop right there, Jason. Why didn't I intro you with you threw a piss balloon at Logan
with my
Roy?
co-star in Succession, my 22nd co-star in Succession?
I fucking love that. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.